Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Sunday afternoon, some massive news coming out of the transfer portal for this Texas A&M program. Former NC State wide receiver Casey Concepcion committing to Texas A&M. And Dill, there's two things that come to my mind. One, and I think most importantly, I love the process of which Mike Elko is building this Texas A&M roster. I think there's a lot of head coaches across the country that if they were in Mike Elko's shoes running this Texas A&M program, probably would have looked for a quick fix at the quarterback spot. And I look at the quarterback mark and then I look at Marcel Reed and what we've seen from him and say, one, I got a ton of confidence that Marcel Reed can be a very fun quarterback in 2025 with a year of being the guy, with a year of creating an offense that kind of suits Marcel Reed and not Connor Wigman. And then secondly, why waste all the time and resources going after, and I hate to sound rude, but I think it's quite frankly the truth, just a bunch of mediocre quarterbacks. Hey, we got a quarterback that has a really high ceiling. Let's, instead of wasting our time going and addressing quarterback position that I don't even know if you could address, let's push our chips into the middle of the table and go all in on building an offense around the quarterback position. That is exactly what Texas A&M has done. I mean, in 2024, I think there's a strong argument to say this was one of the worst pass catcher units that you saw in the SEC. Just not a ton of difference makers really emerged. In 2025, it might not only be, it certainly is one of the best in the SEC. I think we're talking about one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country heading into 2025. And all of a sudden, if you're Coach Colin Klein, you got a problem on your hands. That's a good problem to have. But all this talent, all these difference makers, now you got to figure out a way to get them all on the field and kind of maximize the skill talent around Marcel Reed. If there's an OC I trust to do it, it's Coach Colin Klein. Want to get into a couple of different things. One, all right, what does Casey Concepcion bring to this Texas A&M offense? And I think secondly, talk about what is this wide receiver room going to look like in the 2025 year? A lot of different possibilities. It is the Pandora's box is opened for Texas A&M. Now, before we get into it, as always, to the Texas A&M fans, hey, there's a reason Dill got for his Christmas gift Texas A&M commitment winter hat. And it's because of all the support y'all have shown the boys. In reality, the amount of support y'all have shown as we've broken down these commitments and talked about this program has been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'm going to kick it to you. I know you're a massive fan of him. What does Casey bring to this Texas A&M offense?
I mean, what I think is fundamentally he brings is a very versatile player. You go back to his freshman year and how many different ways they used him at NC State. Very impressive with his kind of diversity of skill sets, if you will. But I think the big thing is Jabri Barber was the one guy I look at was going to be kind of hard to replace in a sense, because by the end of the year, it did feel like he became like
guy.
Marcel Reed's comfort zone, if you will. Their ability to work the middle of the field from that slot position and give Marcel Reed some easy throws to get kind of engaged in games, I thought was huge. And you look at Casey Concepcion, takes the bulk of his snaps from the slot position, but also I think gives you a little extra juice than probably what Jabri Barber did, especially working with the ball in his hands after the catch, which is something like as a team, obviously, A&M just simply struggling.
Yeah, it was. There's two things. One, I totally agree with you. Jabri Barber kind of emerged as the guy for Marcel Reed. Not only did you replace Jabri Barber with this move, and this is not a shot at Jabri. This is more just giving Casey his flowers. I think it's a significant upgrade. And Casey Concepcion working from the slot, there's not many better in the country than what he brings. Going back, and this is kind of what I love about this get too, is the versatility. All of a sudden, this is a really, really deep, talented wide receiver room. If you were going to bring in another one like Casey, you needed to bring in a guy like him, because he can kind of fit in wherever you want. There's so many different ways you can get Casey Concepcion involved in this offense. Yes, a very good wide receiver, but just an offensive chess piece. You take a look at that true freshman year. He led the team in targets, led the team in receiving yards, led the team in touchdowns. He also led the team in rushing yards. He was NC State's offense as a true freshman. Now, the numbers dipped in 2024. That had a lot more to do with the true freshman quarterback that clearly wasn't ready to play for NC State. This is a difference maker. And I think the second thing you added that I really do agree with is yards after the catch. I was looking at some numbers here. One, this is what Casey Concepcion does, right? He had over 800 yards receiving as a true freshman, over 500 of them were after the catch. Forced 20 missed tackles after the catch in the 2023 year as a true freshman. Texas A&M this year, was there a guy that outside of Terry Bussey was kind of used sparingly? Was there a guy that when that player had the football in their hands, you were holding your breath on the outside? Not really. I mean, Texas A&M threw for over 2,700 yards. Only 1,200 of them came after the catch. KC Concepcion is going to make that number go up in a big way in 2025. That's another thing that fires me up about KC Concepcion.
And also his ability to open up some more of what I think Colin Klein wants to be able to get to with his offense. And I feel like if you go back to the Kansas State tape, you saw their ability to work the ball horizontally at times, allow them to set up some deep shots. And a guy like Phillip Brooks is kind of the poster child for that. I feel like from the Kansas State days is his ability to catch swing passes and screens and make plays with it, along with the fact that he obviously can run good, clean routes down the field, which KC Concepcion can do as well. I feel like that sets up a missing aspect of this Colin Klein offense that I wonder if Texas A&M can get to create a little bit more explosive plays down the field.
So now there's two questions that I have. One, this completely revamped wide receiver room, there's a ton of possibilities in terms of what if you're going to 11 personnel and you're putting out 3 wide receivers on the football field, like who are the 3 guys that emerge? I think we're going to find that out during spring practice and fall camp. And all of a sudden last year was like, all right, we just need some guys to emerge and we're not that deep and we definitely don't have that much talent. Now it's like, if you want to play for Texas A&M on offense, you better be damn good because it's going to be hard to get on the football field as a wide receiver. Dill, who leads this Texas A&M offense in receiving yards in the 2025 season?
Probably guess KC.
Yeah,
again, I feel like where Marcel Reed likes to work, I feel like that's KC's game. Now, again, Noah Thomas is probably my second guy that I'm kind of looking for because that he was their ability to attack down the field. And he, again, I feel like he's emerging. Like we always talk about the transfer portals. We talk about that. But if he comes back to this program, I think he does become a very interesting weapon because I thought he had a really kind of under the radar good year in terms of his
play. The thing with Noah Thomas is just the consistency never seemed to be there. From you'd see the video game type catches, but then you also see him, dropping the football in the red zone after Marcel Reed throws it. Like for Noah, and this could be the benefit is like, hey, Noah Thomas now going into 2025. If you want to be a large part of this offense, that consistency has to take a step up. And it almost kind of feels like how Georgia runs their program or Oregon runs their program where, hey, we're just going to get a bunch of really good players at our positions. And if you want to play, it's just going to elevate everybody else because competitive depth is really key in this college football landscape. I would go KC Concepcion to it. You said it best. This is the kind of wide receiver Marcel Reed loves. So not only do you get the wide receiver type that Marcel Reed likes, but you're also getting one of, if not the best slot receiver in the game as well. Second question I have for you, and I would love for the Texas A&M fans to answer this too. What do you do with Terry Bussey? You stick him?
That is the one thing I'm thinking, like, what is going to be his role? Because it felt like they tried to start, again, certain parts, and you didn't see Terry Bussey running a ton of downfield routes, but you did see him catching those swings, some of those plays that I do think are possible KC Concepcion plays. So that is going to be the kind of the question is what is.
And it's a good problem to have, it's just more offensive weapons for you to get involved. Dill, to me, and I'll just say this, looking at him in the bowl game, he almost looks like a running back now. I almost wouldn't hate if he just puts on another 5 to 10. He looks like a running back right now, but if he puts on another 10, especially in that lower half, maybe you just get him involved at running back. Look, when he was coming out of high school, that was the question. Is he going to play wide receiver? Is he going to play defensive back? I didn't really think he'd play running back because the frame wasn't that, but that frame's different now. That year one in that Texas A&M weight room hitting a little different for Terry Bussey. And so I look at him and say, maybe you just get him and Ruben Owens involved at the running back position. You just have difference makers and what you can do with Terry Bussey out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Maybe he goes to the defensive backfield. I don't know. Look, anywhere you put Terry Bussey, he's going to have success. He's just one of those freaky dudes. But it does kind of open up the question because I start looking at this room, Micah Hudson, Mario Craver, KC, Noah Thomas, Jerome Miles coming in and say, look, you want to get Terry Bussey involved. Now the question is, how do you want to get him involved with this team? That's where it starts. I think to round out this conversation, we just watched Texas A&M Friday night against USC. They've done great work in the portal. It's hard to argue that. Where's that last position you'd like to see Texas A&M if they got some bullets left in the chamber, which it seemingly does seem so if you're bringing in Casey Concepcion now? Where are you going with your transfer portal resources?
Honestly, it's still probably the interior defensive line. I just
Same.
think
That's
they
what
need to be a deeper unit, and I get people, especially off the heels of Mike Elko, just eviscerating that secondary. But that's a talented enough room. That's going to be more of a coaching thing. Like, can they get more out of that group? Because I look like there's just not that many guys in the portal right now that are they better players individually than the players that Texas A&M has at those spots. Like, probably not. So I look, it's probably me about bolstering the depth there. Interior defensive line.
That's kind of where I'm at too, because I did think that was maybe a disappointing aspect of that bowl game against USC. This team's rounding out, and you're starting to see that legit star talent emerge for this roster that you need to compete at the highest level of the SEC. No better way to get the vibes back on track than this. You know, the vibes were kind of low the last 48 hours. The vibes are back for Texas A&M heading into 2025. We'll pause it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.